Okay, so hello out there, everyone. Welcome to the AlphaPhysiqz Q&A. I've got you guys live tonight, and what I'm doing is taking some questions from you, and I'll basically answer them to the best of my ability, give you my opinion, and see how we go. So what you'll find is in your top right-hand corner, there'll be a little bit of a Rubik's Cube looking square. And if you actually click on that one, you'll come up with Q&A. And in there, you can type your own questions that will come up for me, and I'll be able to go through and answer them for you. So bear with me. This is the first time I've used Google Hangouts. So hopefully it all goes smooth, but we'll see what happens. All right, so we will get started with the questions in a second. I've got a few that are actually here from Facebook, and a couple of the guys have posted up already. Okay, but in the meantime, just a bit of a rundown about myself. Okay, so my name is Ali Sheaffe, for those of you who haven't met me yet, and I'm a physique coach working on the Gold Coast in Queensland. I also do a lot of online coaching stuff, so I'm expecting to have a few different people from all over Australia and possibly from other countries. So yeah, just to get in there, check in, and put up some questions for me. Okay, I'll see if I can actually pop a couple up just yet. Okay, so I want to start off with the ones that were posted on the actual site first, assuming they got in, they were first in, best dressed. So I want to put one that was actually asked by, there we go, by Ella, okay? And it was actually two parts to the question. There was one with regards to macros while dieting, and then another one which was a bit more info on the whole calories in, calories out thing. Now, I think the calories in, calories out was a little bit to do with the video I posted on Facebook a couple of days ago. So if you haven't checked that one out, definitely go do it. I just talked a bit about the difference between calories in, calories out when dieting or cutting calories versus keeping your calories high and changing the type of food you eat. So I'll touch on that in a second, but I'll go through the macros first. And unfortunately, it's not a straightforward answer I can give you because everyone's macros are different. But when you look at macros, you break them down into three different types. So you've got your proteins, you've got your fats, and you've got your carbs. And when you're looking at your macronutrient breakdown, what you're trying to figure out is what percentage of your daily calories will be protein, will be fats, and will be carbohydrate. Okay? The 2 points I want to make with this one are that when focusing with proteins and with fats, that these two are your essential macronutrients. Okay? And I'm going to outline basically what you need as a minimum with those. And then from there, you fill in the gaps with the carbs. So with protein, generally what I'll do is I'll prescribe roughly 2 grams per kilo of body weight for a female. Okay, so if you are a 65 kilo female, this means that you'd be eating about roughly 130 grams of protein a day. That's 130 grams of protein a day, not 130 grams of meat, okay? So you need to understand the difference between those two. And if you're trying to gauge how much protein that is a day, that's anywhere from 4 to 6 meals a day with a decent size of meat, whey protein, at least 3 eggs in a meal, or whey protein, other types of dairy. Okay, so they're your protein sources that are going to give you a good serving. And if you go for 4 to 6 of those, roughly 25 grams each, then you should be aiming and hitting your goals. Okay, so that's your protein macros. With fats, it's a little different, okay? Unless you are an elite athlete that is eating copious amounts of calories a day and requiring an enormous amount of carbohydrate, then I would never ever go below 25% of fats in my macros. Okay? Fats are absolutely important in your day-to-day diet. If you take fats out, they are actually going to hinder your fat loss. Okay, so if you're looking at, for example, a 2,000 calorie diet, that's pretty standard, you want 25% of that to come from fat, okay? 500 calories a day of fat. So you would be looking at over 90 grams of fat there. Over 50 grams of fat there. So you'd be looking at roughly 60 grams just for that, okay? And you need these fats because they're gonna use them to build for hormones. You use them for your cell walls, you use them for your brain function, things like that. And if you don't get them, these malfunctions you're going to have, especially with lack of hormones, is what's going to have a side effect and cause you to actually gain weight. So big mistake there when people cut fat to lose fat. It's not actually the fat you eat that gets stored as fat, okay? Your body will use that extra fat to build your hormones and do all its normal processes. The same goes with the protein that I spoke about. The reason I've got 2 grams per kilo body weight minimum is because protein is essential as well. Okay, it's not just for muscle building. It is used for everything you could possibly imagine. Yes, it rebuilds muscle, but it rebuilds your tissues, organs, everything else. And bottom line, you need protein to detox with your liver. Okay, so when you have different phases in your liver, amino acids are what your liver actually uses to break those toxins down and neutralize them and be able to put them into your intestines to flush out of your body. So really important there with the fats and the protein, okay? Once you've got that basis covered, then you can start to look at your carbohydrate intake. That's not to say that you would do the bare minimum 25% of fats and your minimum protein and then fill the rest in with carbs, because I can tell you right now, a majority of you will probably be going 50% fats with your macros, okay, and much less carbs. And that will get manipulated and changed as you go through different diets and training schemes. But to start off with, you just want to get those real basic levels because you don't want to go below them. Okay, so that's just a little bit of an outline about macros. So I hope that's kind of helped with what you're wondering about. I can't be any more specific than that, unfortunately, because it's very individualized. Part 2 of the question with the calories in, calories out. I'm not really sure what you want to expand on with that one, other than focusing on the fact that it's just not about the calories to start off with. If you're going to go on a diet, okay, the first step you want to cover is to clean your foods up. So keep your food intake high, but make sure that you're eating good quality foods that have high nutrient density, all right? So you keep the calories high, but you improve the amount of nutrients you get, so it supports your metabolism and it's actually able to keep up with the calories you're eating. After a while, you need to throw in some extra stimulus to help the body keep its fat loss moving. You know, it starts to plateau. Even then, I wouldn't look at cutting calories. I would make a difference in what you're eating and what you're burning by adjusting your training levels rather than your calorie intake. So I would actually adjust your training, maybe look at putting in an extra bit of volume or an extra session per week and burn the calories that way before you actually start to cut back and drop your calories and your food off. The reason for that is the moment you start eating less food is the same moment you start getting less nutrients into your body. The less nutrients you have, the less potential your metabolism has to stay fast, okay? It's that simple. So if you do have any other questions with regards to that calories in, calories out, Ella, feel free to message me on Facebook or here, and I can refer to you a bit more individualized, but unfortunately just here, that's the best I can do at this point. Okay, I don't have any questions showing up just yet at the moment, so please guys, if you think of any, jump into that little Rubik's Cube square in the top right hand corner and type something up for me. But for now, I'll go on to a question I had from Azon, okay, just on the page below, and that was with regards to tummy fat. And I want to cover this with another one that I had on Facebook earlier as well, because they kind of blend in together with the deal of stubborn fat and it was actually quite a big topic. So I'll try and summarize it for you. Just bear with me, and I'll tie it in together, and hopefully it'll help you with the answer. Okay, so Azon's question was about dealing with the lower stubborn tummy fat, and on Facebook it was to do with dealing with lower body fat, so that hips, bum and thighs problem, and how to eat and train to get rid of it. So what we need to focus on when we're thinking about stubborn fat is we need to understand that it's happening because of a couple of reasons. It can be because of toxins and inflammation, and it also can be because of hormone imbalance. So the most complex one is probably the lower body. I'll start with that. Okay, and a lot of people are aware that estrogen imbalance is a big contributor to having lower body fat. Okay, so that's definitely the first thing you want to address. And there's a few ways to do that. So first of all, what you want to do is you actually want to limit the amount of estrogen that you're getting into your system. Okay, and this can be endogenous, so it can be produced by your own body, your own hormones, or it can actually be stuff that you consume. So a lot of the impact that you get with estrogen now is actually from environmental toxins. So what happens is these toxins go into your body and they mimic estrogen. So they act on the receptor just like estrogen does, and your body simply thinks that it is estrogen. Where you're getting it from is your plastics and different chemicals. So if you think like BPA in plastics, if you think shampoo, conditioner, soaps, face washes, makeup, deodorant, the whole lot, your washing powder, your dishwashing soap thingies, the whole lot, they all have chemicals in them, and it absorbs through your skin, it comes in through your diet, you breathe it in when you breathe in car fumes, the whole lot. What you want to do to be able to minimize that is to go organic as often as you can. All right, that's the first step. Limit those external toxins from getting in. And then once you are addressing those high estrogen levels, you want to focus on being able to get rid of them. Okay, so getting rid of them happens in the liver. Your liver obviously is your detoxification organ, okay? It works, as I mentioned before, with protein and amino acids. So by having a high protein intake, you're going to help the liver to detoxify as best as it can. Other things you can use to help are also minerals like magnesium and zinc, and also other B vitamins. Okay, what they do is they act in the chemical reactions that your liver uses to get rid of the toxins. Okay, so by ensuring that you get those in your diet, you'll be able to maximize your liver's ability to do its job. Okay, the other thing to understand is that when you're detoxifying, something that plays a really, really big part is your gut. Okay, so when your liver detoxifies stuff, it actually sends it into your intestines through the bile, and then it gets carried out through your digestive system. So the other thing you really, really want to make sure that you have when you are trying to get rid of estrogen is a high fiber intake and drinking lots of water, because those two together are going to flush through the gut and help remove the toxins. Now, if you want to go one step further, you can take a supplement known as calcium diglucarate. Sorry, started that. Basically, what that does for you is it inhibits an enzyme in your gut that actually causes the estrogen your liver gets rid of to be reabsorbed and reactivated. Okay, so if you have bad gut health, the things that your liver is flushing out into your digestive system can sit there long enough to actually go back into your bloodstream. Hence why the fiber and the water is really important. Okay, and this goes for all stubborn fat, so not just the estrogen that I'm talking about, but any toxic fat that you have, because a lot of the time when you're holding on to fats, it's because it's holding on to toxins that your body has had to dump when the liver couldn't keep up, and it doesn't want to let go of that fat, because as soon as it does, it has to deal with all those toxins again. Okay, and by supporting the liver, you give it a better opportunity to do that, and your body will actually take a chance and release the fat. The other thing I wanted to address was actually inflammation and cortisol. So cortisol and inflammation, which is basically a heightened immune system, okay? It's related to your toxins, it's related to your gut, and it causes these stubborn fats. So what you want to focus on is reducing your cortisol, okay? And what it is a stress response, and most of it will be because of poor gut health. So again, the gut health is essentially important there. So focusing on that gut health will do really well. I didn't mention before, but including a probiotic would be a big step in changing that. And then the other way to reduce your cortisol and really help balance out your estrogen levels and minimize stubborn belly fat, which is actually very strongly attributed to elevated cortisol or high stress, okay, is to really try and minimize stress in your life. And I know it sounds like a bit of a hippie thing to say, but that's reality. When you look at things like your job stress, okay, poor sleep, poor health, poor diet, emotional stress, anything that you can think of that might be an extra toll on your body, okay, that's going to all accumulate, and it's going to cause an increase in your stress, and that's going to have a cascade effect on all your hormones. So it's going to affect things like your insulin, okay? So then you can't tolerate carbs as well, and that in itself is going to create an issue with body fat. It's going to create the imbalance between estrogen and progesterone, which is what I was talking to you a moment about with the estrogen balance and stubborn fat on your lower body. So I guess when you're addressing cortisol, you want to address things like getting real food that isn't processed so you can minimize that impact on your gut, okay? Because the more processed foods and preservatives and things you have, the more inflammation that you're likely to have in your gut, and also the harder your liver has to work, okay? Ensuring you get a good sleep is, I can't explain the importance of that one. And if you're not sleeping properly, okay, it's all going to be linked together, and you need to address things like diet and other stresses to help you sleep. And then the improved sleep will help come back around and also help those things, okay? So there's an app out there called Headspace that you can download for free. I use that one sometimes when I have trouble sleeping. You can do a 10-minute, and it just talks to you, helps you basically tune out, relax, and quiet the mind. Another way to deal with inflammation that I recommend for everyone is fish oil, okay? I've mentioned it a fair few times before on my Facebook page, and I'll say it time and time again. Fish oil is the most amazing thing that you can do for inflammation in your body. So that's a big one to take on as well. Okay, so I've tried to cram a fair bit into a short summary there, and I hope I haven't overwhelmed you guys too much, and that at the same time it makes sense. But I've got another question over here. We're looking at Taser's question. Do you believe in fasting? If so, how long should you fast for? Is it beneficial for cleaning out your system, and will it affect your hormones? Okay, so fasting can be done in a fair few different ways, and it really depends on what you're referring to. So if you're referring to something that's pretty common these days, like intermittent fasting, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, and it definitely has benefits, but it has side effects as well. Okay, so there's a time and place for everything, and I think fasting is one of those things that you save for coming into a comp or a photo shoot, or if you're really trying to get in shape for a certain event, okay? You can go and check out videos on my Facebook page about intermittent fasting, my opinions on it, and different ways of doing it. But the concept behind it basically is when you take food away for a while, with regards to fat loss, it increases your cortisol levels. And now this is acute, not chronic, so I'm not talking about having a high stress inflammation problem here, but it releases catecholamines, and that helps you mobilize fat. So this is where this whole fasted cardio idea comes from. People fast, it mobilizes more fat, and then they go and do their cardio and it burns it. Some people work really well with this and some people don't. as a starting point for a female, I would recommend looking at getting all your other training bases covered and your diet covered before you start doing something like this, because it is a stress on your body, and females tend to have a lot of stresses impacting them, and cortisol tends to be a pretty big focus to help you lose fat. Okay, now, as I mentioned, the cortisol that happens from fasting isn't necessarily a chronic cortisol. It's not a problem long term. However, if you already have a cortisol issue, or if you have a lot of stress at the moment and you go and add another stressor in, it's going to slow your recovery down, because all these stresses come together and impact on your ability to recover from training. Okay, so it's definitely a last minute tool or something when you're getting to those advanced stages of fat loss. Another aspect of the fasting is people actually do it to, you can use it to reset circadian rhythms. So if you've been on night shift, or if you're a shift worker, you can actually use it to help yourself get back into a normal routine. Okay, so if you fast for 16 to 24 hours, it will completely reset that and help you get into the routine of day shift again. But that's a minor one to focus on. And I'll just point out that I've said 16 to 24 hours, but if you're doing the intermittent fast, the effects of the fast will be muted by 16 hours. So 12 to 16 hours if you're looking at doing that fast to help speed up your fat loss. Okay. Okay, Donna's got a question here. I was wondering if you had any tips for pushing as hard as possible during a training session. I'll take that as to do with your new program. I found that sometimes that mental barrier, that there's, a mental barrier that limits me, or I don't know if I'm training at the right intensity. Okay, so different training programs have different focuses. Okay, and you can generally judge that based on the rest time that you're given in your sessions. If you have a short rest period between sets, you can guarantee it's meant to hurt. Okay, the whole point of that program is to challenge you metabolically and improve your strength endurance. If you're doing a pure strength program and you have those 2 to 5 minute blocks of rest, then it's a different ballgame altogether. So let's focus on the short rest ones with the metabolic stress, okay, because that's where it starts to get challenging mentally, and that's where it hurts. Okay, when you're getting into a mental state and you're trying to prepare yourself for a set, think about the number of reps that you're about to do. Okay, so if you're doing 8 reps, for example, and you're about to lift with a weight where you don't feel you can finish those 8 reps, focus on the number in your head really hard. Okay, cut everything else out, and then pump out 8 reps. If you tell yourself that you're going to do 8 or 9 or 10 even, you'll get those 8. If you sit there and doubt yourself, I guarantee you, if you think, I'm going to do 6, I'm going to do 7 or 8, this is hard, you will stop at 6. I'm not even joking. I challenge you to pick a number, okay, higher than what you would normally do. And if you were supposed to do 8 and you pick 10, I bet you can't do 11, but you will do 10. I'm not joking. This is it's a pretty cool way to look at things, but definitely just give that a go. It's simple, but it works. Okay. With regards to your mental barrier, you want to push as hard as possible during your training session. Okay. Use your rep ranges as a guide. So, as I said, you'll know the different intensities based on your rest periods, but your rep range is a guide. So if you're going to do, for example, 4 sets of 8 reps, you want to pick a weight where 8 reps is pretty much all you can get out. If you can do 9, 10 reps, you're going too light. Okay, if you get to 6 and you absolutely can't keep going, then you need to look at adjusting the weight. But when saying this, I'm talking about keeping those rep ranges with the tempo that you've been prescribed. Okay, so if it's a slow eccentric, you got to keep that tempo and keeping your correct technique. If you're throwing the weight around and you're not keeping the tension, then it's not going to work for you. You need to keep that rep range at an appropriate weight. Really, really push that weight so it's your absolute maximum. Okay, so the last few reps, they should hurt in a good way. Okay, you should really be struggling and digging deep. All right, but keep the tempo there. I'll message you about that one a bit more later. All right, so I don't have any more questions in that one. I'll go back to my Facebook ones. What is my opinion on fat burners? You opened up a can of worms on this one, unfortunately. I'll keep it short and sharp. Fat burners have their place, okay? Again, it's like the fasted cardio situation. If you're going to use a fat burner, it's going to be one of those things you put in at the last minute, right up before a comp or right up before a photo shoot or a special event, okay? There's so many ways that you can adjust your diet and training and lifestyle habits that will have so much more impact than a fat burner, okay? And they're so much cheaper that it just makes a fat burner not worth it, especially not the commercial ones that you see getting promoted in magazines and stuff like that. It's really not going to be able to make the difference you want, especially if you're looking at spending $100 on a fat burner, but you're eating chocolate cake 3 times a week. Okay, guys, the reality is leave the fat burners alone and fix everything up first, okay? And once you've done everything you possibly can, then maybe look at fat burners, okay? Honestly, I challenge you to do that and then message me. I'll actually give you some recommendations for some supplements that work as fat burners, and they're a lot better than the ones that you buy off the shelf in the health food shops and the supplement stores. Okay, so I'll leave that one at that. All right. How many times a week should I train to build muscle and lose fat? Again, this is one of those questions I can't really answer on an individual basis here in a group. Okay, so everyone's different, but I'll give you a general outline based on where people are at in their training experience. So if you are new to training, I'm telling you right now that you actually don't need to train separate body parts and do all the things everyone else does. Okay, and you don't need to get in the gym 6-7 days a week to see results. You can see results in 2 to 3 sessions a week, as long as it's improving on what you were doing before. So that increase will shock your body and give you the results you're looking for. What I would want to do is actually base it on lifestyle. So, you know, I get people come into the gym and I say to them, how many sessions a week can you commit to? And they say, I can do 4, I can do 5, sometimes 6. But the reality is, once they get the ball rolling, they realize that maybe they're better suited to fitting only 3 or 4 sessions into their lifestyle. So that's the first thing I would look at before you decide what sort of a program and how many sessions a week you're taking on. If I had to pick a roundabout number, once you do get up and going and you've been training for a little while, I think 4's a pretty good session range per week, just to allow for maximal recovery. Because if you're really putting the effort in the gym, having those extra days off is something you'll appreciate to be able to balance that recovery. Okay, and recovery is what it's really all about. So look at other factors such as I mentioned before, like your sleep quality, your diet, any emotional stress or work stress that you might be having. Okay, that might impact on your ability to recover from your training sessions. And all these things, I know it might sound like mediocre stuff, but it all makes a difference. So if you try and improve all those aspects, then you can probably fit more training sessions in, and you'll find that you progress a lot quicker and you get results quicker. But if you simply can't adjust your stress, or if you can't reduce your work hours, or if you're sleeping as many hours in the day as you possibly can, and you're not recovering for the amount of training sessions you're doing, then the simple fact of the matter is you need to cut them back. So it's a bit of trial and error, and it will change based on your program you're doing and how fatiguing that program is. Okay. Actually, in saying that, what I do want to mention is with your different training programs, they all have different types of recovery. So if you're on a weights program and you're focusing on bodybuilding type stuff, the recovery is generally going to be 24 to 48 hours. So it's pretty quick, and you can train frequently. So you can train your body part, the same body part, up to 2 to 3 times a week. Okay? And just because you're sore doesn't mean that you can't train it again. That's not what your recovery is based on. It's very different to someone who's doing strength training. So if you're doing Ollie lifting or pure powerlifting training, okay, then it's a different type of fatigue. It's a very neural focused fatigue. Okay, and that fatigue that you get on your central nervous system takes a little while longer to recover. And you'll notice that it's not actually a soreness, it's just a dull, tired feeling. Okay, and unlike the bodybuilding style training, that is a good sign that you do need to recover. So I would be looking at spanning that training out a little bit further. But it all comes back to listening to your body, and everyone's different, guys. You just got to focus on that lifestyle aspect. All right. Cardio, if you're doing steady state, you can do that whenever you want. There's no recovery for that. That is a recovery. If you're going to go for walks and jogs, that's an active recovery on the weight sessions that you better be doing on top of that. Okay. HIIT training is a different story. That's high intensity, and that's also very neurally draining. So keep that in mind if you add HIIT sessions or high intensity group classes and things like that on top of your strength sessions, because they're actually going to count towards your fatigue as well. And you're going to have to balance them out because they are going to impact on your recovery from your strength sessions. All right. So I hope that's answered that one pretty straightforward. I can't answer that one. I'm sorry. We'll have to leave that one blank. Okay, I'll address what I spoke to Mia about earlier today as well. Apparently, I've had a question with regards to the 5 and 2 diet. Okay, and I'm only assuming that this 5 and 2 diet is to do with the eating clean for 5 days and then eating what you want on the weekend. So, in my opinion, this is probably something that people have just jumped on as a bandwagon, as an opportunity to do what they want on the weekend. Okay, if this is something that you're doing and it works for you, that's awesome. Go right ahead and do that. If it works, it works. Okay, but the problem that I see is that people will eat clean during the week, and then on the weekend they have subconsciously accepted that, yep, they can go and eat whatever they want. And basically you binge yourself stupid, and you will blow out 10 times worse than what you would do is if you were focusing on eating as healthy as you can and then accepting the fact that you snack sometimes. Okay, so by having those 2 days of focus where you can go and eat and drink and carry on and do whatever you want, you're probably just going to overdo that fact, and it's going to wipe out all the good that you've done during the week. Okay, so that's my opinion on that one. I think it's a bit of a fad, and I mean, everyone's different, but I wouldn't recommend it. Okay. So yeah, that's all the questions I have at the moment. If you do have any more, post them up now, or we'll finish it at that. Okay. If you do have any more questions with regards to tonight, guys, feel free to email me, okay, or jump on my Facebook page, write it on my wall, or message me, okay, and I'll be happy to get back to you. If you're looking at some individualized opinions based on what we talked about tonight, we can definitely look at doing different options for you with regards to online coaching if you want a program for nutrition and training. Or if you're on the Gold Coast, come down and see me and we can do a biosignature consult to see what's happening with your inflammation, your hormones, and different things like that. Okay, but in the meantime, I don't have any more questions, so I will be doing this again soon. So thanks for coming on and watching me. Thanks for supporting me and bearing with me while I try and figure this software out. But yeah, until then, I'll see you guys later. Have a good night.